Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace one of these TPMS sensors on a 2018 Buick Enclave. In addition, when we're done, I'll also show you how you can very easily use one of these Relearn tools to make sure you do this job the correct way. The first thing we need to do here is figure out which one of these sensors is bad. And this is the light that you're probably going to be getting on your dash. And on this model here, it will also tell us which sensor is bad. So you can see there, it's telling us that front right one is the one that doesn't have a signal telling us the PSI on the tire, so we know that is the one we have to replace. So today we're just going to be replacing that one. With that said, if you've never done this before, typically when one of these go bad, they're all going to go bad around that same time because they have a 10-year battery in most of them. So it's usually best to replace all of them. However, it's not required. And if you just want to replace the one, obviously you just got to make sure which one you have here. If your vehicle doesn't have this, you can always use a scanner, or you can go to AutoZone, Advance. A lot of those auto parts stores will scan it for free to tell you which one you need to replace. Now that we know which one of these sensors is bad, go to that wheel and make sure you jack up the vehicle. Put a good quality jack stand under there. On this Enclave, it's just going to be a 22 mil, so we'll remove the wheel here. Now that we have the wheel off of the vehicle, this is our TPMS sensor just behind the wheel here, and this is just the valve stem. So the first thing we need to do is remove the air, and you got a couple of different options. You can either just hold down that valve like that and let the air out, or use one of these tools here and we'll simply remove that valve core in there. Then that'll allow all the air to come out. Now that all the air is removed out of this tire, we now need to break this seal in here. So on these tires, you're going to have a tire bead that simply presses up against the rim in order to give you an airtight seal. And you're not going to very easily be able to break that seal. Obviously in a tire shop, they put this on a machine and it'll take it off in seconds. But at home, you don't have a tire machine. So you need to come up with some sort of method in order to press this tire down. One of the easiest ways you'll be able to do this is just simply take your scissor jack that came with your vehicle, line up a board under here, take it underneath the frame of your vehicle, then we'll slowly compress this down to push the tire in order to break that bead. Some other methods that I've used on some smaller trailer tires is also put this on a workbench, and you can take a clamp and put a board up here and you can clamp it down underneath the workbench in order to press this down. So depending on your tire, there's various different things that you could use. One of the biggest things that I will stress here, we do not want to break the seal or the bead on the bottom, because what we want to do here, we simply want to press it down here enough to remove our sensor here. If you have this tire rotate at all in here on this wheel, you're now going to throw the balance of the tire off and you now have to go get it balanced when you're done. By simply just lowering this here, not breaking the seal on the bottom there, you can put this all back together and it's not going to change the balance of your wheel. So just keep that in mind. We do not want to break that bead on the bottom. You only want to do it right here where that sensor's at. Alright, so right there you just heard that bead pop, so that means it's loosened up. So now we can go ahead and remove this jack. Now that we have that seal broke loose there, depending on which valve stems you have here, TPMS sensor, sometimes they'll come in at an angle and they're literally right here. Other times like this Enclave wheel, it's tucked back in there farther. In addition, there's two different versions of TPMS sensors that GM usually uses. If you have the one on the outside with a nut, those are far easier. You simply just take a socket, remove that nut, that comes out, then you can get the sensor off out of the bottom. On this one here, it actually has a little T10 Torx bit that you need to use in order to remove the bolt underneath there. And to give you an example of what those look like, so this is just the GM one that I have here. You can see there is that T10 Torx. So this is sitting in there like this. So what you need to do is remove that T10 Torx, screw out of there. That'll pull that down. Then you can pull this out. Then you should be able to remove it. So depending on if you have the access or not, you know, you can wedge some things in here in order to give you a little bit more clearance. And I might just put this back underneath the vehicle there and just use our jack again. Now that we got this back under there again, we do have a little bit more access, and depending on what size of T10 you're going to be using, so obviously, you know, where we have this tire here, we can maybe push it down a little bit farther, but, you know, again, we risk breaking that bead on the back side, which we don't want to do. You can also use some smaller tools like this. Just find something that you'll be able to, you know, get in there and easily remove that T10 Torx, and just make sure you do not drop any of your tools or your bolt down there. But once you get that removed there, we should be able to take that side of the sensor out and then pull our valve stem out of the front. And if you notice there, I did kind of rotate that a little bit as well, just to give a little bit more clearance in there. Once you start to feel that that's getting loosened up, I'm going to just stuff a couple towels here just to hopefully prevent, if I do drop that bolt, that it doesn't fall down into the wheel. But we're just going to loosen it up here, you know, just a little bit more. Then I'm going to try to use my hand there to get it off the rest of the way. Alright, so there we can see our bolt fell down, and as you can see there, because we have those towels there, we didn't lose it. So just make sure you put something down there, and then there's that little screw that you're going to be removing there. Now that that's removed, this thing should be able to be pushed straight down like that. So that's the sensor side. Then for the valve stem, just simply pull it out the top here. So we'll first spray a little bit of lubricant in there. I just got some PV Blaster. You can really use anything. Then we're going to put something here on the rim so we don't damage the rim. We're going to take our pliers, and then we're going to gently pry up to remove that out of there. Just like that, and then you should get that out. Sometimes the whole thing comes out, other times that other rubber piece will be stuck down there. Just make sure, again, that doesn't fall down in there as well, and yet now you have the old one removed. Moving on to installing our new sensor here. I just have the GM version here, and this is the part number for this 2018 Buick Enclave. So what I do is just put a little bit of saliva right on this part here to give it a little lubrication to be able to pull it through. Our screw is on there, and we'll just tighten it up once we get it all the way seated in there, but we're going to gently feed it up to the bottom. Just make sure you're paying attention to the orientation of how you removed it. Now that we have it sitting in there, we're going to use this little slime tool that I have here, and it just goes on the end, and it'll give you that little extra leverage in order to pull that valve stem all the way through there. So unthread that, then we'll thread our tool on there. This is a lot easier when the vehicle's not in the way. So let's at kind of a bad angle here. All right, so then once you feel that it fully seated on the top here, if you used any lubricant or whatever you used there to help push that through, clean that up, then we can go ahead and remove our tool. And the last thing here on the sensor, just again, pay attention to the orientation. Make sure it's sitting there just like the old one you removed. Then we'll just gently snug that up to make sure that's firm on there. Then we're done installing the sensor. Then we can go ahead and remove our towels. Now we're ready to remove our jack. Just make sure when you're doing this to have the tire pried back a little bit here so it's not contacting your sensor there. Alright, so after you have the tire clear and our sensor there, we'll pull the wheel out from under the vehicle, and I'll show you the last step here, which is beading the tire here. In order to get our tire bead to sit fully flush up here, you're going to want to use some sort of lubricant. So what I've used over the years is just this tire bead lubricant. Obviously this isn't required. You can put some PB Blaster or WD-40 or something. Just put something in there to help, you know, the process of this tire to get past that rim so it fully seats up here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put a little lubricant here, then take our compressor and simply fill this tire up with air, and then that tire will fully seat around the bead here. Just make sure you don't have anything down in there, dirt, debris, anything as well. Once that looks good, then we'll hook our compressor up here and we'll start filling it up with air. Alright, so then once you hear that pop, now you know it's fully seated. And just clean up any of the lubricant or anything that you used on there as well. If you've noticed what I was doing there during that process, I was constantly monitoring how much air was going in here. You don't want to overfill this. Sometimes you'll just slowly fill it up and then this thing will just immediately pop in. Other times, like you saw here today, I had to put some weight over here to get that final part to get snapped in. But between the two options, it'll work 10 out of 10 times. Just be patient. And again, make sure you're not overfilling your tire based on what the spec is for your vehicle. So then the last thing here on the tire, we'll put the valve stem cap back on there and we'll mount the tire on here. Then I'll show you what you got to do in order to relearn that TPMS sensor with this vehicle. So how to do this on this 2018 Buick Enclave, we're going to go on the vehicle and I'll show you what controls that you have to set in there in order to get into service mode. We'll start the relearn process. Then we're going to take our TPMS sensor tool here and we're going to hold that down at each one of these wheels. So we'll start over there on the driver's side. When the vehicle honks, that means that one's matched to the driver's side. Come over here to the front passenger side, do the same thing, wait till it honks. Go back there to the right rear passenger, honk. Then you're going to finally go to the driver's side rear as well, and then it'll honk 2 times. When you honk 2 times, that means the matching process is complete. So the first thing you need to do here is we'll hold down the start button without touching the brake because we don't want it to start for 5 seconds. All right, so now we're in service mode. So make sure you have your emergency brake set. So ours is already set there. So we'll toggle over to the TPMS sensor area. So right here, and you're going to hold down the enter button here. And it's going to start there. So that means we're ready to begin the process. All right, so there we just heard those final 2 honks, so that means the process is complete. All right, so now that we're back in the vehicle, we can see that our front right one is registering a PSI, unlike before when it was malfunctioning. So now we've confirmed that we fixed our problem by replacing the sensor and also matching that sensor to that wheel. And we're no longer getting that warning, so we've confirmed that this did fix our problem here. All right, well, hopefully this video helped you out if you were struggling on what you had to do in order to not only replace this sensor, but to relearn it to your vehicle. If it did, please give me the thumbs up. If you're interested in more content like this, please hit that subscribe. But again, I hope this helped you out, and thanks for watching.